Hello, Division 6. This is Miss Johal here, and I am here today to talk about decimals, place value, fractions, and money. So, we have already talked about decimals and fractions quite a bit. We've touched on decimals and money. We are going to be talking a little bit about place value in decimals to get a really good view of this. So a decimal in a number can be represented as this guy right over here, that little dot right here. So a decimal point in a number, what does that separate? So a decimal point in a number actually separates the whole numbers on this side, on the left side of the decimal point, from the partial numbers on the right side of the decimal point. So it separates the ones from the tenths. So that's what a decimal point separates in numbers. So what about when we talk about money? So when we talk about money, what does that decimal point right in the center right here separate? So it actually separates money, whole dollars, from cents. So everything on the left side of a decimal point of when it's representing money represents whole dollars. Everything on the right side represents cents, so just part of a dollar. So let's jump right in to some of our work, and we'll talk a little bit about hundreds blocks. So you might recognize them on the screen right here. We've got some hundreds blocks right here. So they may look a little bit different online because usually in person when we see them, they're orange. So we've got tons in our class, so everyone should have seen these before. So what we've got here is we've got a little block right here, a ones block, and that represents 1 penny. And if we've got 10 of those, we've got a 10 block. What does that represent? 10 pennies. But 10 pennies, a little bit hard to say. What's an easier way of saying 10 pennies? We've got 1 dime. So 10 pennies is actually just 1 dime. What about when we see a whole hundreds block like this? How many of these little pennies are in this big guy right here? We've got 100 in there. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Whoops. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 by 10, we've got a whole 100 pennies in here. So what's an easier way of saying 100 pennies? If we go back to this guy right here, we can say 10 dimes. But if we add up 10 dimes, that equals to 1 whole dollar. So what we've got here is we've got our first example, which is 1 penny or 1 cent is 1/100th of a dollar. So that's our fraction form. So that could be seen as one of these little guys, one little block shaded in out of a whole 100. So that would be our diagram form. So just one block of these out of a whole 100. In money form, one of those blocks equals only 1 cent or 1 penny. So if we go back to our hundreds chart right here, if we see if we just have 1 penny, would it be in our 10th section or would it be in our 100th section? So our 10th section or our 100th section. Because we only had, we were looking at a hundreds chart, it would actually just be 1 out of 100. So 1 out of 100 would actually just go right over here. And because we have nothing in our 10th section, we don't have 10 of those pennies added up in our hundreds block, we would put a 0 right here. So if we go back to our chart right here, we have the same decimal point just right over here is 0.01 or 1 cent. So like we said before, it is just 1 out of a whole 100. So we put that 100 just right at the bottom to get our fraction form. So our fraction form, we've practiced quite a bit lately. We put the whole, what we're measuring just right at the bottom right here, and the portion just right at the top. Okay, so we've got another example just right below it we are going to look at, which is 24 cents. So when we have 24 cents, how can that be seen in diagram form? How can it be seen in money form, decimal form, and fraction form, and word form? So if we've got 24 whole cents, in diagram form, we would shade in 24 of these guys right here. So if we've got 24 of them, we would shade in 24 of these guys right here. So if we count that all up, we've got 24 shaded blocks. So in money form, if we've got 24 of these blocks shaded in, that means we've got 24 out of 100 of the blocks shaded in, which is 24 cents. So 24 cents in decimal form is 0.24. So now we've actually got something in our 10th section. So the decimal form of that was 0.24. So let's draw that in here. We've got 0 because we don't have a full dollar in our amount. We've got our decimal point just right over here. We have a 2 in our 10th section and a 4 in our 100th section. So 0.24. And if we look at our hundredths block right here, we have a whole 10th bar filled in right here. another whole 10th section filled over here, and then a remainder of 4. So we've got 2/10 right here, which would be in our 10th section, which is right after the decimal point. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 lonely 4s in our 100th section right over here. So in fraction form, we've got 100 blocks, so the 100 would go at the bottom. And we've got 24 of those guys shaded in, which would go at the top. So 24 100ths in word form. So we've got 24 out of 100ths of those shaded in. So what we've got here is we have some more examples that you can practice on. So just giving you a few more examples. So we've got 24 cents. So that could be represented in money form at the top here. It could also be seen as 24 pennies. And to make that a little bit simpler, instead of saying 24 pennies, we've got 2 dimes and 4 pennies. So the 2 is in the 10th section. So if we look at that again, we've got 2 in the 10th section and 4 in the hundredths position. So what we've got here is we have a couple of worksheets that you can practice on. So how many of the squares are shaded? What is the money form, the fraction form, the decimal form, and how do you say it in word form? So you might see a little bit of a pattern here. Decimal form and money form look very, very similar. What's the only difference between fraction form or money form and decimal form? So in money form, we've got the $sign. So in one of our examples, we use 24 cents. So that's what it would look like in money form. But when we looked at it in decimal form, all we did was get rid of that money sign right at the front, right? So give this a shot. Let me know if you have any other questions. And if you need any more examples, there's a couple more at the top. And yes, and if you do need extra help, I am always here. I can always share my screen with you and give you some extra assistance if you would like. And you all have a great day. Talk to you all soon.